The sky was splitting open. Lightning clawed at the earth, white veins across a bruised horizon. Wind tore through the mesquite, hissing over dry bones and broken sage. Elias Crowe rode low in the saddle, hat brim dripping with rain that wasn't rain yet, just the promise of it. The air smelled of metal and dust, the kind that made a man taste thunder before it struck. His horse stumbled once on a rut, then steadied. Ahead, a faint glow flickered and died. He pulled the reins. A wagon lay overturned in the wash, its canvas ripped clean through. One was spun uselessly in the wind. Smoke rose from a shattered lantern, curling in thin, desperate threads. A sound, small, fragile, cut through the storm's low growl. A girl sobbed. Elias stepped down slow, boots sinking in wet dust. He moved like a man who'd learned not to startle ghosts. His coat, heavy with grit, brushed against the wagon's side as he looked beneath it. A woman lay still, one arm outstretched, as if she tried to hold the child back from whatever fate came galloping out of the dark. The girl was standing there, barefoot, mud streaked to her knees. Torn ribbon tangled in her hair. She couldn't have been more than 8. Her eyes, wide and shining, held the kind of fear that doesn't make sound anymore. She clutched something small, a silver locket pressed against her chest. Her voice, when it came, was barely a whisper beneath the wind. "Can you take her instead of me?" Elias froze. The question didn't belong to this world. It came from some place deeper than grief. He looked at the mother, at the small hand gone still in the dirt. The girl's lips trembled, her gaze fixed on him like she expected judgment. He didn't speak, didn't know how. He reached for her instead, slow, steady. Lifted her into his arms, feeling how light she was, like wind could steal her away if he let go. Then, wordless, he stooped beside the woman and gathered her too, wrapping the body in the canvas torn from the wagon's frame. The thunder rolled closer now, shaking the ground. Elias hoisted both onto the horse, one in front, one behind. The girl's small hand found his coat, gripping tight. He turned the horse toward the dark line of hills, toward home. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then heavy enough to wash the blood from the earth. Behind them, the broken wagon burned slow, flames licking what was left of the past. Lightning flashed again, and for a heartbeat, the world stood still. One man, one child, one silent promise written against the sky. The wind carried a voice then, quiet and certain, from some watcher unseen. The shovel hit stone. Sparks flew in the dark. Elias Crowe kept digging. The lantern beside him hissed low, rain whispering over its glass. The girl stood a few paces back, clutching the silver locket in both hands. The smell of wet dirt and mesquite filled the air. Coyotes cried somewhere beyond the ridge, thin and lonely. When the hole was deep enough, he laid the woman down, wrapped in torn canvas, hands folded. The girl's breath hitched. Elias paused, hat in hand, as thunder rolled far away. He said nothing, didn't pray, didn't know how anymore. She moved closer, voice small. Was she bad? He looked at her, rain dripping from his beard. No. Then why did God take her? The lantern flame trembled. Elias didn't answer. He covered the grave one shovel at a time, slow and even, until the ground was smooth again. Then he stuck the shovel upright in the dirt and walked back toward the house. The girl followed, her small feet silent in the mud. Inside, the cabin breathed warmth. The fire cracked, throwing long shadows over worn wood. Elias poured water into a tin cup, slid it toward her. "Drink." She obeyed, eyes never leaving him. "Is this your place?" He nodded once. "Do I stay?" Another nod. The girl looked at the walls, each one lined with tools, spurs, and coiled rope. The smell of coffee and smoke clung to everything. Through a small window, she could see the new grave behind the corral, marked by a single stone. Later, when Elias stepped outside to tend the horses, she crept to his room. The boards creaked beneath her bare feet. Beneath his bed, a chest waited, old, dust-covered, the lock rusted but weak. She lifted the lid. Inside, a revolver, oiled and ready. Beside it, a dull brass badge that read Deputy Marshal. The sound of boots behind her made her freeze. Elias stood in the doorway, a length of rope slung across one shoulder. His face didn't change. "You done looking?" Her voice trembled. "Were you the law?" He took the chest from her hands, set it down. "Once." "Why'd you stop?" He stared at the firelight, eyes far away. "Because the law didn't stop men like me." She didn't understand, not fully. But she saw the way his hands shook just once, then steadied. Outside, the wind pressed against the house. The boards groaned. The girl reached for the locket around her neck, whispering. "Mama said when people stop talking, it's 'cause their hearts are too loud." For a long time, Elias said nothing. Then he sat by the fire, poured her another cup of water, and spoke low. "Then I reckon mine's been shouting for years." The fire popped. The storm moved east. In the hush that followed, two souls, one worn, one new, listened to the silence breathe. The horse tracks were fresh, 3 sets, deep in the mud, cutting straight toward Crowe's land. Elias stood by the corral, hand resting on the fence rail, eyes narrowing against the sun's low glare. The smell of iron and dust rode the wind. Somewhere behind him, the girl was feeding chickens, humming soft and off-key. He dropped the rail latch and crossed the barn. Inside, the air was cool and still. He unlatched the old chest, pulled the revolver free. The weight of it filled the silence. He spun the cylinder once, listened to the click. It was the sound of a door he'd sworn shut long ago. The telegraph clerk had said they were coming, 3 men from Perdition Creek, the kind that rode for debt and blood. He holstered the gun, stepped outside. The horizon shimmered, and dust plumes moved like ghosts across the plain. Clara came running from the coop, barefoot, hair tangled by the wind. "They're coming, ain't they?" Elias nodded. "Inside now." She shook her head. "You'll get hurt." His voice was low, steady. "Get inside." The riders appeared soon after, dark silhouettes against the dying sun. They didn't hurry. Men like that never did. The lead one wore a long coat the color of dry blood. A silver tooth flashed when he grinned. "Well, I'll be damned," he said as they reined up. Didn't figure the ghost of Elias Crowe still had dust on his boots. Elias stood still, thumbs hooked in his belt. "Ghosts don't live," he said. "They wait." The rider laughed. "We're just here for what's ours. Girl's got a debt on her daddy's name. You hand her over. We'll be gone before sundown." Elias's jaw worked once. The revolver rested easy on his hip. "Ain't no debts here. Then we'll make one." The first shot came quick, hot, mean, close. Splinters burst from the porch rail where Elias had been standing. He dropped to one knee, drew, and fired twice. The first man's horse screamed. The second bullet found his chest. The other 2 scattered, firing wild. Glass shattered from the cabin window. Clara screamed inside. Elias moved through the gunfire like he'd never left it. Low, deliberate, each step sure. A second man came around the water trough, pistol flashing. Elias fired once. The man went down hard. The last rider spurred for the gate, dust rising behind him. Elias raised his gun, paused just long enough for the wind to still, then fired. The man tumbled from the saddle, silent before he hit the ground. The echo rolled across the desert, faded into nothing. Elias stood, breathing hard, smoke curling from his gun barrel. His coat was torn, shoulder bleeding. Clara ran from the house, eyes wide. She threw her arms around him, shaking. He looked down at her, voice gravel rough. "Ain't no one talking you," he said. "Not while I'm still breathing." The wind carried the smell of gunpowder and rain. For a long moment, the world held its breath. The saloon doors creaked slow, letting in the hiss of desert wind and the hush of listening men. The storyteller leaned forward, pipe smoke curling around his face like the ghost of the tale itself. His voice came low, gravel thick. "They say the night went quiet after the shooting stopped. Quiet enough to hear the rain touch dust." He tapped ash into a tin cup. The crowd leaned in closer. Elias Crowe stood there, bleeding, the girl holding to him like the world would end if she let go. The outlaws lay still, their guns cooling in the mud. He never looked back at him, just told her to saddle up. The piano player had stopped. The fire popped. Only the old man's words filled the room. They rode out before dawn. No one saw which way. Some say they crossed the ridge and vanished in the red hills. Others say he was too hurt to make it far. But when the sun rose, that cabin was empty, and 2 horses were gone. He took a long drag from his pipe, eyes glinting in the smoke. A couple years later, a drifter found the grave behind that ranch. Said there was a gun buried beside it, wrapped in oilcloth. Had one word carved into the stone, family. A woman at the far table spoke up softly. What about the girl? The storyteller's smile came slow. Ah, the girl. Clara May. Grew up right, folks say. Ran cattle same as any man. Kept that land hers till the river changed course and the map forgot its name. Every Sunday, she set 2 plates on her table. One for her, one for the man who never came back. He let the words hang there. Outside, a gust rattled the window panes. Somewhere, a horse stamped in the mud. Another voice, younger, doubtful, broke the quiet. You think he lived? That Crowe fella. The old man chuckled low, like he'd heard that question too many times. Depends who you ask. Some swear they saw him years later, old, gray, riding south toward the border. Others say the desert took him that night, and he's still out there keeping watch. He leaned back in his chair, smoke drifting toward the lamplight. Truth is, stories like his don't end clean. They echo. They ride the wind and change shape till what's left is what folks need to believe. He knocked the pipe empty, stood, and reached for his hat. But I'll tell you this much, Elias Crowe didn't die that night. Not really. A man don't die when he keeps his promise. He just turns into part of the land that remembers him. He stepped into the doorway, wind tugging at his coat, voice fading as he went. And that's how it was, the tale of Elias Crowe, the rancher who spoke only when the world needed saving. The doors swung shut. The saloon stayed silent. Only the wind kept talking.